Welcome to the Police Guide Dog Handler Training Series. This video was created with generous funding from the Law Foundation of Ontario. While financially supported by the Law Foundation of Ontario, CNIB and its police partners are solely responsible for all content. The CNIB has partnered with Toronto Police Service, Halton Regional Police Service, York Regional Police, and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police to create this training video for police services throughout Ontario. We begin this series with a special message from Chief Jim McSween, past president of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police and chief of the York Regional Police.
On behalf of York Regional Police and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, I'm pleased to partner with CNIB to deliver this important training video to our members. As police, it's our responsibility to keep our community safe. It's also our responsibility to ensure that the rights of our citizens are upheld and that people with disabilities, including those who are blind, low vision, or deafblind, are not discriminated against. With that in mind, we've created this video to educate our members about the rights of guide dog handlers under the Blind Persons Rights Act. While infractions of this act may seem minor or insignificant, you'll learn from this video that they can have a profound impact on the dignity, self-worth, and emotional well-being of those who endure them on a regular basis. After viewing this video, it's my sincere hope that police throughout Ontario will have a sound understanding of the Blind Persons Rights Act, as well as the strategies and tools that we can use to effectively support our citizens who rely upon guide dogs to independently navigate their day-to-day lives.
The Blind Persons Rights Act is a provincial law that protects people who are blind, low vision, or deafblind from being discriminated against as a result of their reliance upon guide dogs. Under this act, guide dog handlers cannot be discriminated against or denied access to places and services that are normally available to the public. This is prohibited under Section 2 of the Act and could lead to a maximum penalty of $5,000. Prosecuting defendants under this act is discretionary. In some situations, it may only be necessary for officers to educate service providers. In other circumstances, it may be necessary to move forward with a charge. Constable Aaron Cormier of the Halton Regional Police Service explains how to enforce the Blind Persons Rights Act.
If enforcement is deemed appropriate, officers may proceed by issuing a Part 3 summons under the Provincial Offences Act. When drafting the summons, it is important that officers include the name and relevant section of the Blind Persons Rights Act, as well as the address of where the offence occurred. If the charge is against a corporation, then it's important that the proper business name is included on the summons. This may require a business name search. It is important that the officers keep in mind that the limitation period for the Blind Persons Rights Act is 6 months from the date of the offence.
The CNIB has gathered a diverse group of guide dog handlers to share their experiences. Jack, Fatima, Caroline, and Patty sit in a chair with a black background, getting ready to share their story.
I've had experiences at restaurants where I've been excited to go out for dinner with some friends after a long week of work, been on a date, been out for dinner with my family, and someone has told me, "You're not welcome here, you have a guide dog." My name is Jack McCormick and my guide dog's name is Baloo.
A lot of organizations or stores or restaurants, they think they know the rights of service dogs, or they think we're just faking it. I feel very frustrated, annoyed, just want to go in and do what I need to do and come out. Not having a barrier with Miles asking so many questions. My name is Fatima. My guide dog name is Miles.
You know, when you feel like a second-class citizen, that's just not a good thing. All they're thinking is, I'm afraid of this dog, I don't want this dog here, I need this dog to go. And they're not hearing anything that's being said to them. My name is Caroline Bordeaux, and with me is Raven.
People want me, a blind person, to have a piece of paper that allows me to go into a business. I just think that's horrendous. I educate, I'm kind, then I'm not so kind, and then I get angry and say, you know what? We know what's right, and people know what's right, and we need to make it right. My name is Patty Ellis, and my dog is Quincy.
Inspector Jack Gurr of the Toronto Police Service sits down against a black background.
I've been an officer for 27 years. Right now, I'm actually assigned to the Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights team, where we're trying to create a more equitable police service, where members of the service come to work and feel included and feel like a greater sense of belonging. Then in turn, that also helps us as an organization to provide a better product to the citizens. The biggest thing that we are training our people now is empathy. Empathy meaning putting yourself in that person's shoes and try to imagine what they're going through. This is an attack on an individual who didn't choose to be in this situation, but is now placed in this situation. That person is going to remember how they're treated by us. They're going to remember how they were treated by the others that were in attendance that day, and they won't forget. And it's not right, it's not okay, and it's not fair.
The importance of a guide dog. Jack and Baloo walk through a park at sunset.
The relationship with a guide dog is like none other I've experienced. When he's working, he's an extension of me.
Jack takes a long set of stairs with help from Baloo.
It takes a lot to really communicate effectively with him so that he knows what I want and I know what he's telling me. And when we're doing that well, it's pretty darn incredible how we're able to move as one unit.
Caroline?
I had a cane, and canes get caught up in things. I never knew what was around me. I had to kind of figure out where's the edge of the sidewalk. Is there like a building here? How do I find a door? That first time I put the handle in my hand with her in harness and said forward was, oh my gosh, oh wow. I still get emotional because it was so exciting to be able to just walk.
Caroline and Raven walk effortlessly down the Toronto streets.
I can tell my dog, find the door. They'll find the door. Where's the elevator? They'll take me to an elevator.
Fatima walks through her Brampton neighborhood with Miles.
I walk a lot more with Miles in the neighborhood. I go out with my friends more often. I'm not home as often with Miles. I'm more social. And going from the cane to Miles made my life more independent.
Jack and Baloo navigate the city street at night.
It is not uncommon for me to be partway across a road and for an impatient driver to cut in front of us and for him to stop and refuse to let me move forward until that car is out of the way, until the hazard has passed.
Baloo stops Jack in the street as a car turns in front of them.
Baloo is trained to only let me go when it is safe.
Good boy.
To trust a guide dog, it really only takes one experience where they save your life, where a car cuts you off and they stop and do what they're trained to do. And the trust you gain from that animal in that moment is pretty powerful.
Sergeant Sean Thrush and his K-9 officer Revis play together on a black backdrop.
Working with an animal who is not only your companion but also serving a function is unlike anything else. And there's so many areas where the dogs can help us do things that as humans we're limited in doing. In the case of a crime scene, a dog can lead us on a route that we would never think to look or to take. Clear a huge forested or ravine area where a missing person might be. A dog can give us that alert that when we're searching a building, there might be a person behind that door. And it gives us that tactical advantage that we know that we're not walking into a dangerous situation. When I see a guide dog and their handler walking down the street, knowing that guide dog has not only life-impacting but potentially life-saving function for that handler, I have an inordinate amount of respect for guide dogs. Their temperaments, their inability to be distracted by everything that's going around them and focus just on their handlers, I think that's a pretty great thing.
From the Blind Persons Rights Act. No person shall deny to any person the accommodation, services, or facilities available in any place to which the public is customarily admitted for the reason that he or she is a blind person accompanied by a guide dog. Jack and Baloo have experienced denials at a frequency that has left Jack with anxiety and frustration in everyday situations.
I've been asked to present proof that my guide dog is a guide dog on countless occasions. Big box stores, airlines, taxis, medical clinics, hotels, rideshares. That is incredibly frustrating when I am just trying to enjoy everything our country has to offer. All I can think is all these people at this establishment didn't have to present proof to come in. Why do I?
Jack and Baloo get ready to leave their condo.
I think it's pretty clear when you look at my guide dog that he's working. He's got a harness. He's incredibly well behaved. He's listening to the commands that I'm giving him to help navigate.
Like Jack, many guide dog handlers report feeling frustrated, anxious, and unwelcome when they are asked to provide proof that they have the right to enter a public place. Section 4 of the Blind Persons Rights Act states that an identification card issued by the Attorney General or an officer of his or her ministry is proof, in the absence of evidence to the contrary, that the blind person and the guide dog identified therein are qualified for the purposes of this act. While requests for guide dog identification are not currently illegal in Ontario, as they are in some other provinces, CNIB's messaging to service providers is that best practice is to assume that a guide dog is a qualified working dog, unless there is reason to believe otherwise. The scene moves to exterior city streets.
As I've had more experiences with denials, I've become less patient.
Jack and Baloo walk through the city at night, battling refusals and guide dog ID requests.
If the person is being respectful and understanding to me, that is exactly how I will treat them. But if the conversation is more like, get your dog out of here, I'm not going to be as respectful. I'm not going to be as open to educating them because they're not as open to listening to my perspective, my experience, and the fact that my guide dog is there to empower me.
A guide dog ID is passed over Baloo's watching eyes.
Being asked to show an ID makes me feel like a second-class citizen, makes me feel like I am not included, makes me feel like I don't belong there. I sometimes wonder if Baloo will be my last guide dog because I've had so many refusals.
Jack and Baloo sit alone on a city street.
I wonder if the experiences I've had are worth the freedom he gives me.
Jack sits alone without Baloo on the same street.
If every officer was educated on the Blind Persons Rights Act and willing to enforce it, it would mean that I don't have to be afraid when I go somewhere new because I know I can get help.
I'm Erin Cormier. I work with Halton Regional Police, and I've been a very proud officer for 23 years now. You know, oftentimes people see us as first response and crisis and immediate resolution, you know, stop the fight, resolve the conflict. I think an effective officer and effective policing is when you can obviously resolve that situation in the moment, but then also provide resolution for moving forward, whether that's enforcement or, again, resources to allow that situation to change and ultimately change for the better so that it doesn't repeat and they don't require us again.
It all starts with advocacy. Become an advocate. Fatima is a college student who has experienced guide dog refusals. She is learning self-advocacy with help from the people around her.
I wanted to play a sport, and there was not many options. And I said I wanted to play soccer because all my siblings were playing soccer. We would go to the games and we would kick the balls. When I had some vision still, I felt like there's no sport for me to do. But then I found judo.
Fatima takes the arm of her sensei Heather and enters the dojo, a large open room with padded mats on the floor.
I think I was a little bit nervous about what was gonna be expected. I don't know these people, it's somewhere new. What am I getting myself into? Sensei Heather, she was there the whole time supporting me, breaking down how to do the throws. It is nice to have advocates. They can support each other through the journey. The police could be one of them.
At her family home, Fatima loves to cook with her mother.
I marinate the chicken and then...
My mom makes the best meals. My mom's to me a friend, a mother, a buddy to travel with, and she's a big advocate to look up to. It makes me more independent and more capable of advocating for my own self.
One incident had a profound effect on Fatima's mother when they tried to enter a major grocery store.
She goes, "Do you have a certificate?" I'm like, "For what?" She goes, "Yes, I have a certificate." So I don't know, pull out something, you have something. And she goes, "Ma'am, you're not allowed to be in here with the dog." I said, "Yeah, we can. It's a service dog. She's blind." She goes, "Nope, nope." And everybody around us like, "You can't stop them. It's a service dog. Why are you harassing these people?" Like other patrons were telling them that. I couldn't talk anymore. I just started crying. I just stopped. And then she took some information and she left us. And then we walked in, but I couldn't shop. My kids they already are at a disadvantage. And they'll have somebody treat them like that. It's hard.
Fatima continues.
I think the police officers could help when I do get declined of educating or doing some kind of training for the public.
So my name is Megan Puttick. I'm a police officer with York Regional Police, and I've been an officer now for 8 years. I think oftentimes our presence can help diffuse situations. In speaking to disadvantaged groups, I think we can learn a lot, and anytime someone faces any sort of adversity, they're going to be made much stronger in overcoming the challenges they face. And with that, I think, comes a certain type of wisdom, and we have a lot to learn from those individuals. And then we can mirror their thoughts and their words and advocate for them.
The rideshare experiment. Guide dog handlers make the claim that rideshare companies are the biggest perpetrators for denying them service. The CNIB and a film crew put these claims to the test. We spent an afternoon calling rideshares to find out how they deliver service to guide dog handlers. Larissa, a guide dog handler, has agreed to call rideshares until we get a cancellation.
As long as I've been using rideshares, I've had anxiety about rideshares. There's never any guarantee that you're going to get a ride.
She and her dog, Jim, wait on a sidewalk next to a busy side street.
Okay, confirm.
Connecting you to a driver. Vehicle. White Honda CRV.
Okay, Jim, get ready.
The first rideshare approaches, and the driver initially shows hesitation.
Sorry, I am not Uber pet.
No, this is not a pet. This is a guide dog. I'm blind. He's a service dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My stomach kind of dropped thinking, this is always the way it starts. This person's going to drive away. So I didn't feel very welcome in his vehicle, but I'm glad that he didn't just leave me there.
And the next driver approaches at rush hour, and the street noise adds to the challenge of getting a ride.
There's a lot of sound, so there's vehicles waiting to cross at the intersection, there's the church bell ringing. You know, I can't rely on my sense of sound.
At this time, the rideshare driver goes right past Larissa and continues down the street.
The mental game with every ride is there. If it's the person asking questions or you're having to wonder, is the person going to come back?
Larissa's driver does return and kindly opens the door for her and Jim. But the pattern continues with the next driver, who again drives right past Larissa and Jim and round the corner into an intersection.
It's that sort of limbo where you're thinking, is it that they've spotted me and they want the time to tick down, or is it that they're just stuck in traffic and trying to get to me?
Message from driver. Are you with a dog?
Oh, am I with a dog? Is this him?
Larissa's driver finally locates her.
Hi there. Good, how are you?
He gives Jim a few pats as he enters.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay.
Hi, buddy, how are you?
I don't even mind the people that talk to the dog. Not everybody knows that you're not supposed to talk to a guide dog. I'd rather someone talk happily to my dog than not let me in their vehicle.
To this point, the experiment is going well. Larissa has met some resistance, but not been denied a ride. Then the next driver did something we had not seen.
Connecting you to a driver. Vehicle. Silver Toyota. Trip pickup. Safety mess. 290 meters.
The rideshare driver had noticed that Larissa could not see him and made a point to call out to her.
Yes, Ahmed? Yes.
He called my name, which was really awesome because, I was ready to sort of step into the street to go to the vehicle, and he said, wait, like he was going to come around. And it was like being a regular person getting a regular ride somewhere.
Okay, sweetheart, find the way. Hi, how are you?
I wish every ride was like that. I wouldn't have anxiety when I leave my house. If you could just go to sleep at night without even thinking twice about how you're going to get to your destination in the morning, because it's just a given that you'll get there without any hassle. Getting several in a row is awesome. But then that one that denies you is just this gut punch of like, get back where you belong. That was a lucky streak. And it shouldn't feel lucky. It should just feel like life.
The fifth time Larissa called for a ride, she was canceled on through the messages in the app.
As soon as the ride was confirmed, the driver was confirmed, I sent a message to let him know that I'm blind and traveling with a guide dog, so please let me know when you arrive because I won't be able to see you. And the driver messaged back to say, why didn't you request an Uber pet? So I messaged him back to say, it's not a pet, it's a guide dog, I'm blind. And he messaged me back to say, I'm not taking a pet. And then he canceled the ride. There's no recourse for me. There's no way to explain to him beyond just a few words in a text that, what you're doing is illegal and it's not okay, and try to imagine what it's like to be standing outside cold, waiting for a ride and having to explain your rights to somebody who just doesn't give a shit. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
So my name is Victor Cerruti. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service, and currently I'm at 53 Division, and I'm the neighborhood community officer in the Thorncliffe Park neighborhood. And I've been a police officer for almost 22 years now. Legislation, laws, rules, even our own policies and procedures change so often, and to be the best at your job, you have to stay on top of all of these changes. So a lot of the times, if we're going to be responding to a call, or even if we're just flagged down on the side of the road, and it's in relation to a law that we may not know very well, because it's not something we deal with every day, like Highway Traffic Act or the Criminal Code of Canada, there's nothing wrong with educating yourself prior to arriving on scene. It's simple to pull up that law or pull up that procedure and just kind of touch up to make sure that you have the most current information available to you. Absolutely important to do that.
Caroline Bordeaux is a law school graduate and a guide dog handler. She has faced many refusals and will not back down from a fight when it comes to her rights.
With my background having gone to law school, I have a very definite understanding of the process of what's supposed to happen, who's supposed to do what legislation there is. And those are skills that I would love for everyone to have, but not everyone has them. It would be really helpful for guide dog handlers to know that A, it isn't your job, that there is help, and that you can ask for it, and it will be there for you. But right now, I can't guarantee that it will be there for them.
In 2015, Caroline had an extremely aggressive refusal of service at a restaurant that prompted her to take action.
So it was a very exhausting day. Just wanted food.
Caroline and Raven enter the restaurant.
We open the door to go in, and the man comes out and starts screaming about the dog.
Caroline is confronted by the restaurant owner.
I never had that kind of experience where it was so aggressive. I tried to speak to him. He was not speaking to me. He was not having it. I told him I'd call the police. He didn't care. So I left. The feeling that resonates the most with me, that I still remember, is feeling so humiliated, like I am not good enough to be at a restaurant. I called the police that day, and they told me somebody will call you back. So I called again when no one called me back, and I spoke to a person who said, well, we don't enforce this kind of stuff. We don't do provincial offenses. I knew for a fact that that's not correct.
Following the disappointment of the police response, Caroline reached out to Global News to tell her story.
A year ago, when Bordeaux was denied service at a restaurant due to her guide dog, Toronto police refused to investigate.
She said it is not the police's job.
To convince Toronto police it is their job, Global News had to send them the Blind Persons Rights Act and show them a statement from the Ministry of the Attorney General.
We were wrong in the information that we gave, and we apologize.
Then they promised to make sure all staff were made aware of their legal obligation.
We asked Caroline what the ideal response from police looks like. A police car rolls up to the restaurant.
The officer comes when they're called.
An officer shakes Caroline's hand in front of the restaurant and listens to her recount of the incident.
They ask, tell me what happened. So you tell them what happened. They take notes, and then they go in and they speak to the person involved. And they explain to them that this is the law. The person has a right to be here.
Constable Victor Cerruti explains.
Sometimes a situation, it dictates that a fine or a charge has to be made. You're beyond the education component, and in a situation where it's someone's personal rights being violated, it goes even further than just holding people accountable. It sets a precedent that it won't be tolerated.
Constable Megan Puttock continues.
It represents the community as a whole. This is something that we're taking very seriously, and if you don't choose to abide by those rules, there are penalties associated to it.
Recap. Jack speaks over a montage of police footage.
I think a lot of people go into policing because they want to make a difference in the community, because they want to change people's lives, and they want to keep people safe. Enforcing guide dog legislation is such an opportunity for officers to make a difference in the lives of people who are more vulnerable than the general community. It's such an opportunity for things to change in Canada for people like me.
Inspector Jack Gurr continues.
Police officers play a pivotal role in community safety and well-being and representing fair and just society. Policing has evolved to consider equity in more of what we do.
Fatima adds,
if I did call the police, I would want them to come and help and having a conversation. They can't turn anyone away.
Patty continues.
That would make things a whole lot easier for the many, many people who've had life experiences that have made it really difficult for them to speak up at all. Those people need someone to be in their corner, and I think the police need to do that.
Sergeant Sean Thrush.
Officers are members of the community like anyone else, and sometimes we come across situations that never had to deal with, and it's the old adage, walk a mile in someone's shoes. If that was me, how would I feel? And I think it's always good to reflect on that in your own life as a police officer.
Caroline crosses the street with Raven.
I've had officers that took the statements, went and spoke to the person, did everything they're supposed to do. I've really, really respected that.
Constable Erin Cormier.
There are times when it goes beyond the education and it's necessary to proceed by way of charges. And that's important because it sends a message that we take the Blind Persons Rights Act, we take it very seriously, and it was created for a reason, and we're going to enforce it for a reason. And that reason is to protect people and give them the access to things that they have every right to.
Jack concludes.
When guide dog handlers phone the police, they are doing it because they feel like they've got nowhere else to turn to. They feel like the experience they've had was so egregious that there's nothing else that can be done to fix it. When someone's had such a traumatizing experience, there's an opportunity for police to really make a difference, to educate a business owner, to support a blind person, and to change the dialogue around guide dogs in our community.
Special thanks to all participating police services.